I'm Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book. And in this video, we're talking about our favorite topic, which is Batman v Superman. We are going to be going through the entire second trailer, which was released on Jimmy Kimmel Live last night. So this one starts off with this kind of like upper end party that's hosted at what maybe is a museum. Looks like Lex Luthor is the host of it, and we have Bruce Wayne pulling up. And the key thing in this scene that we see in the trailer is this interaction between Clark and Bruce. So, what did you make of that interaction in the dialogue there, Jason?
Perfect. I really enjoyed it. As we speculated a few months ago, this is kind of what I wanted to see happen at this party. We kind of speculated that this was the scene I believe they filmed at the university you went to.
Yep, Michigan State.
Yeah, so it's cool to see that kind of like we figured it out and not in a ruining way for the story or anything at all. It's just cool to see this happening because I was worried about too much action and not enough story, and this kind of sets it off at a good spot for me.
Yeah, I loved it as well. I mean, when I was hearing it, I had to watch it again and again because the dialogue just felt so good to me. Um,
Hmm.
and I liked how Bruce made some points, Clark made some points. I liked how they, as Bruce and Clark, have some tension and have some issues to work through.
Yeah.
And I like how there's that layer to it and not just the physical layer of Batman and Superman. So, and that's also what we kind of were hoping for earlier on was that this conflict would have like three or four layers to it, not just a physical fight and not just a like Batman's mad about Metropolis
Yeah.
getting no, it's like that's part of it, but a lot of it is these other things, and I feel like that's coming true that there are these layers to it. So I liked the sparring there.
Some nice build up before we get to the action is always good, right?
Right. And I actually really liked the acting in it from both of them,
Hmm.
even though we saw just a little glimpse. But when Clark comes to him and he uses the word vigilante for Batman, and he's kind of, talking about it in a negative way. And I thought Ben Affleck had like a perfect smirk. Like he has this smirk of like he's kind of tired and weary, and he's been like dealing with this, and this is like an old issue to him. And he's like, oh, this guy's going to bring this up to me. So like all just in this facial expression, I thought was really good. And then I thought Henry Cavill had a nice job too. Like he has this line where, Bruce is kind of putting down Superman and saying, like I don't trust this guy. He could do whatever. And then Clark says, "Well, most of the world doesn't share your opinion." But even when Henry Cavill delivers that line, I thought he put a lot of depth to it because he's kind of delivering it as like, I'm not really that happy that the world worships me, or I'm not really that happy that the world is in love with me, like over the
Yeah.
moon. But he sort of has to bring it up as a counterpoint to Bruce. He does say like, well, a lot of people like Superman, but the way that delivered it, I thought was just great.
Yeah, and it also added another layer which was cool that I kind of thought about when I saw them on the Comic Con panel, which was how much huger Ben Affleck is than Henry Cavill. And in every other instance of Batman, Superman in comics and other media, they've never really had a Superman that's noticeably that much smaller than Batman, but they played that
Hmm.
up really cool because the strength of that is that when he's as Clark Kent, it kind of
Hmm.
suits him to be the smaller meek guy next to this
Hmm.
huge kind of supposed to be older Batman too. I thought that was kind of a nice twist on what we've always seen between the two, right?
Yeah, I thought that works really well because as humans, Bruce is the billionaire. Bruce is the one who's been around, like you
Yeah.
said. He really does have the upper hand on that human Clark Bruce side. So I think it makes
Hmm.
sense for him to physically be bigger. But then when there's Superman and Batman, there was that cool quick shot of like Superman just lifting off of the ground. So he
Hmm.
took a height over Batman and then kind of came down. So I thought that was really good.
Hmm.
But we've got a lot more to talk about. So if we move on, we have from the Clark Bruce interaction, we have Lex coming in. So what were your reactions to Lex coming down into that now became, a three-way dialogue?
Well, I liked it. One part of it was a little too on the nose, but it was fun to see. But he definitely is like a real manic kind of energy to him going on, and he really is playing up the youngness of this Lex Luthor. So I'm interested in it because it's such a different take. I just hope the
Hmm.
whole movie he's not kind of like that because it seemed kind of like Jesse Eisenberg throwing a lot of himself into the character.
Hmm.
But to be different and make it its own thing, there's nothing wrong with that. So we'll see how he progresses. But I did like it. That one line was really on the nose, though, where he was like, when he shook his hand, he's like, "Oh, don't pick a fight with this guy." it was
Hmm.
it was fun to see, but hopefully it's not one of those things where by the time we see it in the theater, it's outlived its kind of freshness because we haven't seen that line so many times.
Right. So this Lex part has been one of the things that's been getting some negative attention, but I felt really positive about it.
Nice.
I like this take on Lex. I feel like here this is early in the movie. Lex is very overconfident, I would say. Like, I think Lex is full of himself. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. I think he's hosting this party, is my guess.
Yes.
And so I think he's kind of like, hey, I'm sort of the star of the show. I'm going to come in, and it's a party atmosphere, so he's kind of like over emoting and that kind of thing. And he comes down, and I think, so this is a speculation, but I think Lex has figured out Bruce and Clark and knows their secrets. So I think when he's coming down, for Lex, it's kind of a game. Like, I'm going to go play with these pawns. I know their secrets. I have this master plan that I'm going to put in action. And he just, like, thinks my plan is going to work. I'm just this genius.
Yeah, maybe.
So for me, it, like, worked really well.
I did like it because it's a different take. I kind of hope it's not what you're saying because I don't want it to be one of those movies where by the time we get to the third act, everybody knows everyone's identity. It kind of takes some of the fun out of it for me, you know?
Yeah, so I think that Bruce will figure out Clark. I think Clark will figure out Bruce, maybe with Lois's help.
Yeah.
I think Lex will figure out those two, but I think it'll stop there. Like, I think it'll just be that those main three know the secrets, or they figure it out one way or another.
Yeah, maybe him.
You also mentioned, like, you don't want Lex to sort of be at that pitch or at that sort of energy for the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to, because I think the glimpses that we get of what I assume are Act 3, he's kind of like come off of his high horse,
Yeah,
and his
that's true.
plans are not working out how he thought they were. And so I think he's actually going to have this arc of like being totally overconfident, over the top at the beginning, and then getting sort of humbled and becomes angry because he, you know, his plan was foiled. And so at the end, I think he ends up in this like dark, angry place, and he becomes maybe like more of a somber Lex.
Yeah.
Maybe loses the hair.
Well, yeah. If they do that thing from the comic at all, that Superman's at all responsible for his hair loss, that would be hilarious because that's been in there since like day one, I think.
Yeah. I also liked that they're kind of establishing Lex to have some mannerisms that I think are different than previous Jesse Eisenberg characters. I think they're actually doing some things with Lex's hands. So, like, in the first scene, he has this clapping, and he makes the hands part of what he's doing, like shaking the hands,
Yeah.
clapping the hands. And later, we see Lex running, or this was in the previous trailer, Lex is running his hand around, like, Superman's face. And now, in this trailer, Lex puts his hand, like, right up to Lois's face. So I think this is going to be sort of like a theme that they're going to play with
Interesting.
throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Next up, there's a quick little shot that I want to ask you about. There's a lot of stuff that kind of comes, but this one shot that people are talking about is what looks like parademons. Maybe it's winged, you know, they flash by in the sort of nightmare desert scene with Batman. There's some sort of winged things that are looks like they're carrying people away, so of course that makes people think of parademons. I think this is like a nightmare or a dream or an alternative future type sequence, but people are saying maybe this is a hint at Darkseid. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I didn't catch that in the trailer, but I did see a lot of people are commenting about dreams and that with that scene with Bruce and the outfit and Superman coming down with all those kind of people like bowing to him and stuff. I kind of hope it doesn't end up just being a dream scene kind of thing because it'd be really cool if that's worked in somehow to the movie because it's the scene that's really interesting so far that we have no idea what's going on. And also as a side note, people are complaining about this trailer showing too much. I think that's BS and ridiculous. It's a good trailer. It makes you want to see the movie. And, you know, we pretty much knew that they'd be fighting somebody at some point, you know, like, it's not giving away too much of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to say too. It's like it's not spoiling a movie
No.
to know who the villain of the movie is.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like almost every movie ever, you know who the protagonist is, who the antagonist is. That doesn't ruin the movie.
Yeah, not getting off track. When people get out of hand with spoilers and stuff, if a movie is really good and well told, you know, when you watch Empire Strikes Back, you don't not watch it again because you know what happens. You know, if it's a good story, it doesn't matter if you know stuff about it. You're still going to enjoy the telling of it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of comments where people say like, well, now I don't need to watch the movie because I saw, and I'm just sort of like,
Isn't that ridiculous?
you know, we've seen like 4 minutes maybe total
Yeah.
of
Like a
and
2-hour movie.
yeah, right. And it's like, even if you can cobble that 4 minutes into a rough plot synopsis, to me, a plot synopsis is a lot different than an actual movie.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's like, what do they all have
Yeah.
photographic memory or something? I don't get it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
even then, it's like, if a plot synopsis was the same as a movie, we wouldn't make movies. We would just release plot
that's it.
synopses.
Yeah, we're going for
You
the
know, it's like,
experience, right?
yeah, a paragraph of what happens in the movie is not the same as the movie. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm with you. Like, there were rumors about Doomsday. We've had like more than a year to speculate. Is it Doomsday? Is it Bizarro? Is it Zod? Is
yeah,
it somebody
exactly.
else? So I feel like we've had a long time to have fun, like thinking about that.
Totally.
The rumors about Doomsday have always been there. To me, it's not a problem to just go ahead and show like it's Doomsday.
Yeah.
Let's just go to
It might
Doomsday.
as well,
So
yeah. Just finishing
I
off with what you said. To me, I don't think it's parademons. I think it'd be. I hope they're not bringing in the dark side stuff this early because it makes more sense to me to set it up for, you know, more for the Justice
just
League movie
Justice League, maybe.
and let
Yeah.
this be its own thing.
Yeah. If it is Parademons, I think it's going to be just like maybe a flash that or a quick image that's not really explained. It's not really part of this movie, and a lot of the audience won't even really know what that means.
Hmm.
But comic book fans will know, like, hey, that's probably means Darkseid's coming in the next movie.
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe. All right, so actually, a couple things before we talk more about Doomsday. So we get some of the same images of the Superman Batman fights that we've seen before, which still look good.
Yeah.
We get a couple new little slices to the Superman Batman fights, and we have Superman saying, "If I wanted it, you'd be dead already."
Exactly.
What'd you think of that line?
I think they're doing a great job. It's funny. I was talking before about that trade coming out with the best Batman Superman fights in the most recent comics in years, and I was reading the Hush issue today where Batman and Superman fight,
Oh,
and just getting ready because
yeah.
I was psyched about the fights. And there's a lot of good stuff they can draw on from the comics that have been done differently to show how Batman could fight Superman and how Superman can fight Batman and not really kill him like we all know he could, right? So there's lots of cool layers underneath. That's what I like with this because in the Hush comic, Superman's under Poison Ivy's control. Well, this one it's not that, but even when he was, Superman has that moral compass that no matter how mad he gets at Batman, he's not going to kill him. And that's what's really cool because
Yeah.
Superman's going to come at it differently. He spent his whole life trying not to kill people, probably learning his own strength and all sorts of stuff. So he kind of has to hold back. So I like that aspect. And I hope they play up the aspect that Batman is not afraid to push it to the edge because that's who he is. So that's why it makes a perfect kind of balance of the two fighting.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. It's not a fight where like these two people are coming together and it's a fight to the death.
Yeah.
No, they're coming together and Batman wants to kill Superman, but Superman is just trying to basically hold Batman back or is trying to actually sort of talk sense into him while they're fighting. So, as a Superman fan, that line really resonated with me. So, I thought that was
I
good.
liked
It
it
does
too.
also, yeah, and I think it looks like Superman and Batman are going to have at least two fights, I think,
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah. I
from
hope
what I
it,
can piece
I
together.
hope it kind of is peppered with cool moments. Like if it happens, like they meet each other and then they have a fight and then they see each other in public again as Clark and Bruce. I love that because to me that's almost more interesting than the fighting because they have to fight and once they know who each other are and they see each other in public, pretend they don't know who each other are, but really are just can't wait to like get to round two. That is
Yeah.
would make the movie kind of go to a different level, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know about the movie. One of the questions that I have is about Superman. You mentioned Poison Ivy controlling Superman in Hush.
Yep.
I still wonder a little bit about like if Lex somehow is able to control Superman some way.
Yeah.
Because that shot when Lex says, the devil will do it, Superman is like just standing behind Lex. And so
Interesting.
I'm kind of like, why is Superman standing there? And then that makes me think in some other scenes is like Lex somehow influencing Superman. I don't necessarily think it's brainwashing or something like that or
Yeah.
infecting him. I think maybe it's just like he has leverage on Superman, something like that.
Maybe, or maybe he
So,
tells him and he has something of his Kryptonian heritage that, he can show him, but he's got to kind of come to his
yeah.
place and who knows what can happen, right?
Yeah, I mean he could threaten Lois
Oh,
or
yeah.
Martha. He could have info. He could have, there's a lot of ways Lex could get leverage. So that's to me a question, and I think that hasn't been revealed at all yet. So that's definitely still an unknown.
Yeah, that's the interesting things. We don't know what's going to happen yet with that, right?
Yeah, and even the line where Superman says to Lex, like, "What have you done?" To me, it's kind of like Superman was almost maybe like with Lex until Superman realized the full extent of what Lex was doing, and then Superman's like, "Okay, our deal's off. Like, I'm gonna now take you down." So
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that's gonna play out.
could do that. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's talk some more about Doomsday. So Doomsday comes in. Like we already said, we don't really think it's legitimate to complain just because they showed
Yeah,
Doomsday. It's 3 months away. It's kind of real, it's reasonable to know who the big bad is going to be in terms of a physical threat.
yeah,
But some people might complain about the design of Doomsday. The way that I've been thinking about it is that this is a new version of Doomsday. So I'm kind of curious. He's going to have a new origin. I think Lex is creating him maybe from Zod's DNA, maybe from the Phantom Zone, something like that.
yeah.
So it's going to be a different version of Doomsday. The spikes are nubbier, but maybe they're going to grow. But like for me, I'm just curious to see how they bring Doomsday in. I'm not expecting him to be like exactly like the comics.
Yeah, I think you've kind of touched on it there, and I thought it right when I saw the trailer for the first time, and even more today. I think it's got something to do with having the body of Zod. It's probably going to be like this weird mix of the origin of Bizarro and Doomsday, if you ask me.
I think so too.
And I think that's cool. But my one thing is that I think it's too soon to bring this character in as a villain. So they really need to do this, knock it out of the park. Because it's not like I can understand them coming at it like we need to have someone this big for all three of these characters to fight, and that's cool, and I like that aspect of it. But it's got to work story wise. If it just seems that they're
Yeah.
like, oh, we need to create someone bigger because now there's Superman and Batman and possibly Wonder Woman, then it kind of takes it out of it for me. So as long as there's a good story behind why we get Doomsday coming into it, then I'm all behind it.
And that's the other thing that has not been spoiled yet. We don't really know what Lex's master plan is. Like, I don't think that his plan is just like, well, I'll create Doomsday and then just let him go.
Yeah.
Like, I think Lex actually has a larger plan that he's trying to carry off.
He always does.
Yeah, so as long as they have that, like you said, then it can work. And as long as they don't kill Superman. Because we talked about
like
that.
that's too much in one movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just do like the history of the DC universe, like 10 years of it solid in one movie. Like, come on, right?
Yeah. So I'm okay. I'm okay with Doomsday.
Yeah, and the
as
design
long,
was
like,
fine too.
Yeah, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't like over the moon about
Yeah.
it, but I'm like, this can work. Having him with the actual like, being able to have the eye beams and stuff is kind of cool.
Seeing Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all together right around then and having a bit of dialogue was pretty classic, I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah. So now to the last piece, which this was actually on my first viewing of the trailer. This was my favorite moment was
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. Like Wonder Woman's arrival and then the she's like slowly her shield's coming down.
Yeah.
And the music, I was just like, I'm very happy about how they're handling Wonder Woman. At least in these trailers, they're giving her some props, which I thought is good.
Yeah, we still haven't heard her talk, right?
Nope,
So
you're right.
that's a big tell to me. Like, I need to hear her voice and have her sell it, but they've handled her really well. And obviously, I think the fight scene after, with all three of them fighting Doomsday and potentially whoever else is there, that's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm just glad that they're giving her, they're having her in the front of the Trinity. They're bringing her in a big way. And I think, too, it's going to set up the Wonder Woman solo movie, hopefully, as long as it, I think it looks good so far, and I was excited about it in this trailer. Hopefully, if it's also good in the movie, that sets up the Wonder Woman solo movie well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was nice to see all three of them together in a live action movie. It's very exciting. So I also think though they did some editing. So when Batman is like in a vehicle and he sees Doomsday coming at him, and then Wonder Woman I think is actually there to kind of save Batman in that moment. I think that's actually a different scene than the scene where the three of them are standing there together, like ready to go.
Oh, probably. Or
when there's-
later in the scene or something.
Yeah, when they're standing there, and they act like Wonder Woman just arrived, but Batman is standing and he's not like in his vehicle anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
One thing I want to touch on is that, for me, a big concern was how is Ben Affleck going to pull off being Batman? Not because Bruce Wayne already sold on for him from the other trailer. So he did a good job in this, and he really looked like a Frank Miller style Batman. They pulled that off very well. My only concern is that he's kind of got that voice changing thing every time he's in the suit. And I'd kind of like to hear him just do, if there is any point where he's just kind of talking like his normal self in the suit, because they know who he is anyways, who cares? Because I think that his own voice could make it sound a little more original than just kind of a gargly, you know, voice changing thing, kind of like Arrow mixed with what they already did in the Nolan films. So that's my only kind of little concern. I'm like, I just kind of want him to be able to sell it as his own thing because he's doing a good job so far.
Yeah. So my take on that one is I was able to understand his dialogue pretty easily.
Yep.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's definitely mechanized, but it's not
Yeah.
hard to understand. But the way I was kind of thinking about it is when he has the voice modulator, that's just sort of like part of the bat suit, which means whenever he's Batman, he has that voice. Where if he was doing like his own change to the voice, then he would kind of like do it when he's around strangers and then not do it when he was around like friends or people that knew. So,
Yeah.
and that would be kind of weird, I think, if he's in his bat suit and he's doing multiple voices. So
Well, yeah,
the
I
modulator
guess.
gives you a sort of excuse for why it's always going to be a Batman voice anytime he's in the suit.
I just thought the way they made him look before was that weird voice was because he was in the robotic suit.
Right.
That kind of made sense to me. So we'll see how it goes. But because I like Ben Affleck's voice as Bruce, I'd just like to hear it as Batman as well.
Right. Yep, sure. So, all right, cool. There's probably a lot more that we could talk about, but I think we'll probably call that good. So, yeah, hopefully the people don't get too spoiler crazy. I
I
feel like
know.
I feel like it's really about having a good movie, and
Totally.
if you want to have surprises, there's still, I think, a lot that we don't actually know.
Totally.
People focus on what we do know, but there's probably lots and lots of stuff that we don't even know that we don't know.
Yeah, and to me, like they did the right time. They know that Star Wars was going to steal a lot of the thunder from this for momentum. They timed it right. They got a little bit of hype built about it. They released that kind of clip first, which was pretty cool to release as a teaser for the trailer.
I like
and
that one.
I think they're doing a good job. And I just I hope that there's a lot of good story to go with the action we're seeing.
And there's good dialogue. I mean, I at least felt like the dialogue is pretty strong from what we've seen.
I'm with
so.
you.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot. We will now probably turn towards Star Wars for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, sounds good.